Hello, and thanks for tuning in. My name is Jack Tomzik, and today's date is April 6th, 1902. Today we travel back to 40 years ago to a much more turbulent time, a time of civil war. This war had casualties ranging anywhere from 600,000 to 750,000. Throughout its 4 years came after multiple southern states seceded from the Union and tried to create their own government. President Lincoln condemned this action, and the war began after the South attacked Fort Sumter on April 12, 1861. Today we are fortunate enough to have a Union veteran from the Battle of Shiloh, Major Josh Collins.
Yes, thank you. I am very glad to be here.
Now, I just have a few questions about Shiloh, but first of all, how did you get involved in the Civil War?
Well, as you know, the Battle of Shiloh took place on April 6th of 1862. Almost a year before, after the first shots had been fired at Fort Sumter, I volunteered for the Army because I wanted to fight for my country, along with many others. I was 19 at the time. After our physical inspection, they allowed me to join up. Since I was from Illinois, I was put into the 11th Illinois Regiment with others from my town, including one of my friends from when I was a little kid, Henry, who sadly did not make it back. Our regiment, along with many others, was part of the Army of the Tennessee during Shiloh, which was made up of around 48,000 troops.
I'm so sorry to hear about your friend.
It's all right.
From what we've heard, the Civil War was extremely fascinating, yet horrendous. This must have been a life-changing experience, being a part of it. Do you mind talking about how higher-ups communicated with soldiers during the battles? Also, what role did transportation play during the war?
Yes, I'm glad that you asked these questions, as they are a very important aspect of the war that many people may forget. Everyone is always more interested in the battles that go on, but we would have never won these battles if not for all of these aspects. For example, the newer railroads and recently invented telegraph around the time of the war were very helpful for us in the war effort. Our larger population, more money, and raw materials were also big advantages for us in the war. However, I think our strong industry and effective transportation system won us the war. Our industrial and economic success soared during the war as we continued to industrialize. Many Irish immigrants also joined the Army or worked in the factories making weapons and tools. Women would take up jobs in the factory or run around the battlefield as nurses. In the South, it was obviously a different story because they had few railroads. Also, we would destroy any railroads and telegraph lines to try to stop them from communicating.
Oh, okay. So basically, the South's agricultural economy, based upon their slave labor, made their mobilization of resources more difficult and decreased the production rate of necessary items, like uniforms and guns. As the war dragged on, the Union's advantages in factories, railroads, and manpower is really what crushed or beat the Confederacy. Do you think you could describe the events that led to Shiloh?
Of course. First, we need to talk about two events that occurred in February of the same year. Under General Ulysses S. Grant, our leader, we were able to capture both Fort Henry and Fort Donelson in only 11 days. These were such decisive victories that we began to call our general Unconditional Surrender Grant. A month later, news arrived that the Confederates had retreated to Corinth, Mississippi, so we set up camp near the Shiloh Church, waiting for the arrival of reinforcements, the Army of the Ohio, consisting of around 18,000 additional troops. Here, we continued to train and were drilled during the day. We stayed at this position until one day, on the morning of April 6th, a Sunday. I remember quite vividly. I had just woken up. It was a nice day with the sun shining. I was making my coffee when suddenly I heard multiple gunshots ring out. Outside, a bell was frantically rung, and shouts of, "The Graybacks are here," could be heard throughout the camp. We were extremely disorganized and were unprepared for any attack. I yelled at my friend, who was still asleep, "Get up, get up!" We grabbed our cartridge boxes of Minet balls, our cap boxes, our bayonets, and our rifles and ran, following the other members of the 11th Illinois to regroup.
Thank you, Mr. Collins, for being here today. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have. And see you next time when we tackle Mr. Collins again and his experiences during the Battle of Shiloh.